Hi there guys, Sam here. Welcome back to another video. Join me for a Q&A with the GTI Clubsport owner. If you're familiar with my channel, I did a Q&A, I mean, what was it? Probably about a month ago? Maybe it was 2 months.
Probably a little more.
Yeah, it was one of my first ones that I did. A lot of people loved it. I really enjoyed it as well. I love talking to owners, R owners, GTI owners, whatever. You know, in fact, passionate car enthusiasts, if that makes sense. But yeah, so this one is going to be really interesting actually, because essentially you've had a little bit of a potential offer on MK8 R, a very well spec'd one. Obviously I've driven this car, you've driven this car, we've spoken about how great the GTI Clubsport is.
Yep.
And we'll see how things work if we do get to go for a drive of something after this potentially. But yeah, for me, my channel's all about kind of helping people and helping yourself, helping subscribers, because it's such a big decision to make. But yeah, I suppose if you're not familiar with where this kind of story is continuing, check back on that first Q&A as well. But yeah, let's continue on, shall we? So first of all, how are you? How you finding the car?
Yeah, been loving it. It's all been good, and yeah, I've just been sort of busy back at work now.
Yeah.
When I got the car, obviously it was sort of during lockdown and stuff, so I had a bit more free time. So I've just been using it as my daily, and yeah, I mean, no problems at all. Love the car. Gotten very used to it now. You know, obviously having had ours for the last few years, took a little while to adjust to it, only being front wheel drive and stuff. But to be honest with you, it hasn't been that big a change.
Yeah.
And yeah, just what happened was I you know, like all enthusiasts, continuously keep an eye on
Keep checking. It's on the
on
same.
what's going on and stuff. And yeah, I was just thinking about it the other day. I just thought back to my old Mark 7 Lapis Blue.
Yeah.
Which was one of my favourite cars that I've owned, and I was just looking through some options and stuff, and anyway, I somehow just managed to find some time, gave the Golf dealer a call, the guy who sorts me out, and I was just talking to him about the kind of the general situation of what's going on at the moment, and we had a good old chat, and he was asking me how I was finding the car, and then he asked me how many miles I'd done on it, and he was quite surprised because I only live sort of 5 minutes away from where I work, and this is just my daily driver. I've done just over 3,000 miles since January.
That's still not bad, to be fair, considering the situation.
Yeah,
I'd take 3,000.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. It was unbelievably good.
Yeah, that's true.
So basically saying, look, I can't believe that how few miles you've done. And he was like, oh, have you sort of thought about, you missing the R's and stuff?
Yeah.
And we talked about my old one, which was the 7.5 Reflex Silver, which he then told me he had sold literally within about 10 hours of having the car.
So he was the guy that sold that car. Okay, that did look good.
So literally, yeah, that 7.5, it was white silver, black Pretorias, sunroof, lots of options. And I was like, yeah, I do miss it. And I said, just at the time when I bought this, there weren't any appealing spec R's that really struck out at me.
Yeah.
And I said to him, why? I said, have you got any interesting cars coming in? Just as a bit of a joke. And he goes, well, yeah, actually, we might have one that will interest you. And so he went through it, and it was Lapis Blue, performance pack, sunroof, Harman Kardon sound system, which is big for me because, as you might have known from my previous video, I produce music. So
yeah, hugely important,
so
and that does make the difference.
Yeah, and the standard one is okay, but if you do want to crank it up, and particularly the sort of music I make, which is quite sort of bass heavy, and it'd be nice to have something a little bit kind of stronger.
Is this one quite a bit tinny, would you say, when you get it quite high, or is it?
I mean, to be honest, I don't listen to it that loud a lot of the time. But no, it just lacks the kind of the depth.
Yeah.
Particularly with modern day produced music, you've got all the different sort of elements going on, and it just sort of doesn't really showcase them on a system like this. And there's no bass.
Yeah.
So yeah, he sort of went through that. I was like, so our performance pack. So I get the spoiler, which I love on this car. It
does look good. It does look good.
It just for me just makes the car personally, and I sort of, one of the reasons I didn't go for the R originally was because there weren't any with performance packs available. They had only literally just announced it. The guy told me it'd be months before one would be available.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was ready to kind of to move on. But no, so it's got that performance pack, which I quite like the options with the sort of the Nürburgring and the drift mode and all that kind of stuff. So it just adds a bit of fun to the car. And then it had obviously the upgraded 19-inch wheels, which I really like.
They look good.
The Estorils. And I had thought about going black on the Estorils, but with the Piz Blue, I actually think with the wing mirrors being in silver, it actually is better to keep them silver. It just contrasts quite nicely with the blue. And so that was another thing that got me. And then the Harman Kardon was kind of the icing on the cake.
Kind of adds it.
And the sunroof, which I do miss.
Which is great. I mean, I drove an R last week, and it had the sunroof, and it had Akrapovic exhaust, and it had 19-inch wheels. Didn't have the performance pack. But the sunroof is... Yeah, it is nice. Particularly when the weather is nice and stuff. I wouldn't say it's like an essential thing to go for.
Yes.
But yeah, if you want.
Well, I think when you've had it, particularly, you know, looking into the nicer days, it is just nice to open it up, and it brings so much light into the car, and
you can just sort of cruise along in it. It was really really nice, really nice to
and I think when it's back, it also adds a nice look to the car.
It does air out. I mean, I don't think these are too cramped cars,
no,
but it does give us more air, makes it a bit more.
And it just gives the top part of the car a bit of interest, doesn't it? Because you know, when it's closed, it just looks black, so it's like a black glass roof.
Blends in really well. So was that that car that you were offered? Basically, that's pretty much every option except the Akrapovic exhaust. That's basically that.
Which I didn't want.
It's an expensive option. That's the one.
It's a very expensive option, and actually,
grand.
I've seen a lot of reviews where the guys have said that the noise from the original one is actually in a way deeper than the one that comes from the Akrapovic.
So I can give you quite first-hand kind of check on that one, and that's why I'm actually interested, because you can get the GTI Clubsport 45 with the Akrapovic.
Yes.
And I actually think that car will sound better than the Golf R with the Akrapovic, just because of the way VW basically designed it. They designed the R to be a little bit more toned down. GTI Clubsport, as you know from driving this, to be a bit more toned up.
Yes.
I drove a performance pack Golf R back a few months ago, one of the first drives in it, standard exhaust. It made some good noise. Not as loud as this, loud as this for sure. You will notice the difference there. It doesn't have as many pops and bangs, but it was nice. The one I drove last week, so it's fresh in my mind, Akrapovic exhaust. It sounded good, but then there was periods of time, like the owner actually sent me some videos after we did it, and it sounded a lot different. So it's a case of the exhaust needs to warm up, needs to get some miles on the car, you need to be at the right point. It does sound better. It does sound better than a standard Golf R without the Akrapovic. I think it's £3,200.
Yeah.
So you've got to really want it.
And I think for me the look of the performance pack, you know, what you obviously get the wheels and you get the spoiler. Is just more appealing to me. So I'd rather spend that extra money on that rather than the exhaust. So that's just personal preference.
Yeah, no, definitely 100% personal preference, and that's the thing. Because again, speaking the owner from last week, he didn't go for performance pack. He went for the Akrapovic exhaust. He went for 19-inch wheels. He went for those things. And I think obviously with the performance pack, I think it's like it can be performance pack or Akrapovic exhaust, because obviously performance pack's about £2,000. £3,000 for the Akrapovic. But you are getting quite a few things. You are getting the 19-inch wheels thrown in, which are like, I think VW charge about £800 for them anyway. The wing does look great. You then get the modes. The Nürburgring mode is like, for me, what would be my default mode. That's pretty cool. I don't know, does the car have these dynamic chassis control?
No.
Okay, so it doesn't have that. So I had a little bit more of a debate with a lot of people about this, because that was the first car I drove ever with dynamic chassis control. All like my 7R is passive dampers. This one obviously is, and the ones I've driven in the past. It is really good. I will 100% guarantee that.
And what does it sort of add?
So you've got like, if you really wanted to get really into it, you've got 15 settings if you wanted to. Full comfort or full hard or in the middle. And basically, if you're in eco, you're in most comfort settings. If you're in like sport, you're in the middle. And if you're in like race, you're in the full firm. But what it will do for the Nürburgring setting is it will soften it down anyway. The thing that got me was, as a passenger and as a driver, I actually noticed the change. Like, I was like, oh crap, this is actually doing something, rather than just a gimmick to throw in. So I mean, obviously this is one that they've ordered, so it's come in.
It's another option, and I think actually it was quite interesting on the DCC. I asked the dealer, out of all the cars they had ordered, not one had DCC spec.
And
so he said he obviously doesn't think that it's particularly appealing.
That's the thing, because a lot of, again, when people are looking at it, they think big wing, aquaphobia exhaust, don't really care too much about anything else, pan roof. But actually, underneath the fundamentals, and like the car that they would test around the Nürburgring, would actually have DCC.
Yes.
And I always found it difficult when I was looking for 7Rs and even looking at 8Rs.
Yeah.
It's very hard to sort of filter out and say, does this have DCC? Because you just can't find them.
No.
And no one really cares. You're not going to get like an added premium.
Well, no, and I think you're probably right. It probably does bring something into the package, but I think for most people, if you haven't had it, you wouldn't miss it.
I will.
It's one of those things. Also, like with the sunroof, if you've had the sunroof or you've had that, then you want it.
You
again,
want it constantly.
You know? So I think again, it's just one of those things. It's just priorities. I think for where you're at, and I think for me, in a weird way, I quite like the car feeling hard
passive,
and sporty all the time, because I drive it like that.
And I wouldn't say, because obviously I drove one without, luckily enough, and that was on 19s.
Yeah.
I never thought it was uncomfortable. I thought it was firm. It was probably a little bit firmer than mine on 18s.
Yep.
But it certainly wasn't a case of like, I couldn't drive to Scotland in it. You'd still be absolutely laughing. Yeah. And then it's less. Everything, so many buttons, so many complications. You just get in the car. Okay.
I'm very much in that boat. I just want to get in, like, just put it in race mode or whatever it
just
is,
go.
and either leave it in the default automatic or just go for it and have a bit of fun. That's kind of how I think when I drive. So yeah, as you said, going into the settings and fiddling around with all this stuff, and then sort of thinking, do I feel any better? For me, it's not a priority. And it's funny, the dealer knew this because he knew the car he came out with exactly what was going to appeal to me, which was the music, the wing, obviously the performance pack giving you the extended top speed as well, which is massive.
Yeah, 167, I think, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, so it's nice to know you've got that. If you ever want to take it onto a track or whatever.
Go to Nürburgring, go to Autobahn.
And he knew I wanted the wheels and the sunroof. So literally this spec, had I have spec'd it,
probably would have gone for it.
Would have been exactly what I would have gone for.
That's tempting. That is really, really tempting.
So he's made my last couple of nights very kind of frustrating in a way, because I love the Clubsport.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, we spoke about it so much as well, and it went down well with a lot of people on the channel.
Yeah.
And I got a better feel for it. Second time I've kind of driven one as well, and it is.
I have no regret buying this car. I mean, literally on a daily basis, the comments I get a lot of the time on the colour. What's that? Is that a special edition GTI or whatever?
Well, that's the thing. You'd normally think, that's a bit of an extra option. That's got extra sort of flair to it.
So it does get a lot of attention, and I love it. And as I said to you before you came here, like, even when it rains, I've not thought once, I'm missing the four-wheel drive. I've just not thought about it, because I know what I'm in. I know it doesn't have the four-wheel drive, so I don't drive it like I used to drive my Rs.
Well, that's the thing. It's a completely different driving style. I think it's a completely. It really is a completely different.
Which,
car.
don't get me wrong, I like that. It is just nice when it's almost. You almost think it's a bit funny, when it's raining. You think, it's just not going to bother me. I'm just going to floor it and just sort of smile and know what I put my money into.
Well, completely. I mean, it's raining today. Last time we went up, it was pretty torrential. And, if you're going to pin it in first gear, you're going to get wheel spin. But I found it as well when I had my Fiesta ST. I don't think it detracts from the fun. I think it gives you more engagement, gives you a little bit more play, particularly if you're not doing 10,000 miles a year.
Yeah,
as well.
it gives you fun in a different way, and I think we talked about that in the last video. I think it offers you a different feel, and because it's lighter as well, you feel like there's a sort of an aggressiveness to it when you really want to go for it in this. And it was funny. I watched. There was a guy from, I don't know, Auto Express, one of the main racing drivers who tests out a lot of the cars, and he tested the Clubsport, the R, and the Seat Cupra Leon 300, which effectively is the same as the Clubsport under the
Yeah,
bonnet.
yeah, it's the same, different badge.
and he raced all three of them on the circuit, and his definitive answer was, apart from the actual facts of the lap times, was the R was the slowest. But I mean,
On
we're
a
talking
track,
talking
yeah.
about milliseconds,
Yeah.
right? And the Seat Leon Cupra was the fastest by a split second. The Clubsport was in the middle, but what he did say was on the track how much more fun the Clubsport was than the R. I mean, he literally said it's night and day.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
he goes,
I
because
would
it's
go with
lighter,
that.
so the brakes are accentuated on this.
It's
The R, because it's heavier, they don't feel as tight as they do on the Clubsport.
it's definitely not as predictable. So an R, you can basically the limits are endless. You
Yeah.
can absolutely push that, and you wouldn't really notice it. And again, it goes down to the fact that it's a little bit quieter as well. I think you don't get necessarily that full feel that you would in a Clubsport. And don't get me wrong, you can go a lot harder than a Clubsport as well. You can go like, I think Civic Type R. You can go, I don't know, Focus RS or something like that, the previous gen. But it is a real. I mean, it's a good situation.
But it was just
to be
interesting hearing it from a guy who's completely neutral, who is a racing car driver and a professional reviewer.
I think I saw that video as well, to be fair. Yeah,
and he just said, hands down, he said if he was to pick out of the three, he would have picked the Cupra for racing around the track.
Yeah, that's in. Yeah,
And then second, the Clubsport. But then he said, this is where the R drivers will like this part. He goes, for a road car and for everyday use, he said the R is just beautiful. He said it's just perfect.
it is really. I mean, on that side, it probably is literally a 10 out of 10 car. As like a road car, which you can literally have it as discreet, make no noise. I know you can turn stuff off in this. Comfortable. No one will really, even with the performance pack, will really be like.
Although you say that, I think it might have depended on how you've driven the cars. Like, I've got a couple of mates around here who drive ours, and you hear them.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So I think the whole thing with this exhaust, and they've actually just got standard R's. There's nothing on them. No, the 8s.
Oh, nice. Okay,
no Akrapovic, nothing like that. No performance pack. And when he's going for it, I mean, you hear him. It's very loud.
And that's what I like actually as well, because once you get the car warmed up, and I find it with my R as well, it can be dead quiet, particularly for 10, 20, 30 minutes into a drive. And then if you really give it some, you're then like, lift off, and you're suddenly like boom, 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 boom. It's like, that's interesting.
So I think the whole thing with the Clubsport or
this did seem louder.
Yeah, I will just pass judgment on that until I've been in an R. Because I think a lot of it does come down to, like, think about the way I drive this car. So I'm always revving it. So the exhaust has been opened up. It's loose. Yeah.
It's a good point to mention.
Whereas when I first started driving the Clubsport, it wasn't as loud.
No. It does take time as well, obviously, because you're quite close to your work. You can walk or whatever. This is very much like your fun car in some ways. That's kind of what it will be used for.
Yes.
I think it's hard because I can only give you my experience of what kind of like the R is like in a way.
But it'd be interesting to see what the R is like with someone who is a fairly aggressive driver. Don't get me wrong, I take care of the car. Like for the first 1,000 miles when I got it, didn't go over 3,000 revs, sort of thing. But it'd be interesting to see someone who had one for a few months and to see just how that sounds.
It will be interesting. And I think you're in a great situation as well, obviously, because we've spoken about values and prices and costs and everything, and how this car is actually. I mean, funny enough, I've got a video coming today, which will be on Sunday.
Yep.
And I checked through some of the prices as well. The GTI Clubsport. You're looking at one with probably more miles than this, 40 grand a dealer.
Yeah.
And as you know, that's over list.
Well, the fact that I have got a decent amount of equity after owning a brand new car for 8 months is unheard of. Is unheard of.
No, it's completely.
Usually on a particularly, on this sort of car, you'd have to be probably 2 or 3 years into it to find any sort of appreciation on what you can get.
Completely, and this is why I say this is like a complete unique situation. We all kind of know if you get a brand new car, 99% of the time you're going to lose money. It's going to be a case of, unfortunately, that car is going to depreciate, whatever, like the VAT or whatever is, and it's going to lose some cash. But we're in a weird world where people can't get hold of cars aren't getting built. These cars are good.
And it's not going to clear up until spring 22, apparently. That's when they're thinking it's the earliest it's going to clear up.
I literally have no idea what's going to happen, because you've got to think manufacturers are trying to sort out all the electric stuff. They're trying to get those things ramped up. There's so many different complications to go through. you might not see as hardly any 8Rs coming out. They might sort of be, because
I mean, literally. So we're talking about a large VW dealer, a group. They have, apart from the ones that have already been bought, they had literally only 3 available on their system.
which is crazy.
And the earliest build week is 52, which is December, late December.
Which is not.
So you're getting your car sort of end of Jan, Feb.
And that's without probably certain options as well, because that probably pushed some certain days back. It's really, really, really interesting, and I think.
Well, no, I don't think it's got anything to do with options. I think
it's just
they
whatever,
ordered the car. They ordered the car, I think, a couple of months ago.
So it's on the ticking.
So it's already been
down.
ticking off.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I guess
they're saying that there's no issues with parts. The only thing. So the guy was telling me, he was literally in Germany. They have just the cars parked literally nose to nose, all built, and they're just waiting for the factory to fit these electronics.
No way.
Yep.
So pretty much.
It's just down to how many of these things they can get.
So it's the microchips basically that they're just
the semiconductors.
It's so weird, isn't it? You got this whole car, and then there's like this little square which they just need to plug in.
So you can just imagine this massive area full of thousands of cars which are just all waiting to be installed with these chips.
Well, that is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But isn't that interesting? So
it's really, really interesting. I think, and I tried to, because ultimately a dealer, they want to make money. They want to make the margins. I mean, you've got kind of like a bartering tool in a way, because your car has a lot of value to me in it as well.
They know they could sell it straight away because there's none of them around.
And if you didn't know your stuff, again, a dealer unfortunately takes advantage of that. It's where I kind of hope my channel helps people out, and I speak to a lot of people, to be fair, whether it's over Instagram or just in the comments of my channel, just sort of talking them through it, because I'm very much like, I want you to be in the best situation, you know, whether it's having the best car, but also getting the best value for your money, you know. And I kind of look at it in 2 ways. Like, if you went to this very, very nicely spec'd 8R, arguably the exact spec you'd want,
literally,
and you drove it around and you enjoyed it, or even if you didn't enjoy it, you've had that experience of trying it, I can't see that car, first of all, plummeting in value. A, because you don't do a massive amount of miles. B, because it's just going to be the same amount of wait time for everyone else. And if you do find yourself going, you know what, I kind of like the Clubsport, you could, you look at like the 45 Clubsport, for example, or even another Clubsport.
You know, the 45 has been taken off the VW website.
So video, I've got literally, so that's the weirdest thing. So Sunday, which would have already been out, I have done a video on that.
And I'll tell you why, because again, this guy was telling me, I basically asked him every question I could.
Go for it, yeah.
So he was basically saying they are only focusing on cars which are effectively, they know.
Mainstream.
They know people want. Because they don't want to waste the manpower building the cars that are going to be waiting there for months and months and months. Because the amount of people, love the car or not, they're going to be buying a Clubsport 45 is a handful, basically.
That's really interesting, actually. And that probably makes it even more limited, to be fair.
He basically said the whole thing, he said the Clubsport has been really popular for them. And the R, he said the R is even more popular. But he said the Clubsport 45 is just you know, if you want a Clubsport, you're going to go for this. Very few people are going to want the red wheels and the extra decals, and it's more of an enthusiast market that are going to go for that.
Yep,
he said all the big companies are basically, you know, looking at that and thinking, right, do we want to waste our manpower on these cars?
Really interesting. I mean, that's funny you should say that actually as well, because last week the owner of the R, his other half had an R line, a Mark 8 R line. I know we spoke about that before, and first of all, it's amazing how
they like their golf.
So yeah, very much a golf enthusiast, which was great, and I hope to actually speak to them again, to be fair, and get them back on the channel as well, as I do with every single person I meet up with. And first of all, they look very similar. It was amazing. He spec'd it in 18-inch Pretorias on this R line, and it had like pan roof, DCC. It was really, really nice. Obviously, not the same performance and stuff.
But no, but a nice Golf spec nicely will look nice.
Oh yeah, and to 90% of people, it's, you know, it almost looks like an R, which was crazy. But what you say about those mainstream cars, that's the car VW want to shift. That's the one they'll make the money on, and that's the one that they'll be able to sell. And
he was just comparing with the amount of Polos they sell, and he just said, I mean, he goes, if you looked at the charts of sales, so that's where we're also at, is that, you know, companies, because, you know, they need to be so careful with what they're building at the moment, because he doesn't think it'll happen, but there could be a situation where they've just got cars waiting to be sold.
That's going to be really interesting.
And
so
the demand, he's just hoping the demand is going to stay.
That's really, really interesting, actually. You should say that. That is going to be... I mean, because we live in, when we talk about the Rs, even the Rs and the club sports, we're talking about a very small amount of what VW actually do.
Tiny
like
specialist market, yeah.
RS3, it's probably going to be potentially even less when that goes through.
Yeah.
So that is interesting, and that again works in your favour completely.
Yeah.
So where is your... So we'll say how this kind of came about. So I was basically literally this morning, and my plan was actually to meet up with another MK8 Golf R owner. Sadly, that couldn't work out, that personally, for whatever reason. Hopefully that can work out in the future. And literally, probably, no lie, 10 minutes before you messaged me on Instagram, just going, "Hi Sam, how's it going?" I was literally like, I wonder if I should message this person, because bit relatively local, and I was like, it's good to see how the car's doing, just to catch up.
Yeah.
And when we were talking, you were going through, I've been offered this potential deal, this, it could work, and I was like, this is really, really interesting. So shot down him, and we've got a video, so that's the great thing, because I think a lot of stuff that we talk about, I really do think other people are going to find it helpful in this bizarre world.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's coming from someone like, as I said, like for me, my car is a very important part of my life. It's a massive passion for me, and I'm constantly on all the websites and keeping my eye on things, and if any of this information can help out, then
completely. And you're not the only one. Every person that I've spoken to, they very much have the same kind of passion, and that's kind of the way that they kind of go down. And videos like this will definitely help them out. So do you have like a deadline? Are you under any pressure?
I have got my own personal deadline, because I know what I'm like as a person. I need to make a decision.
Yeah, that's true.
Otherwise, I'll just sort of forget about it.
Yeah.
I'm sort of very close to agreeing it.
Okay.
I got him to send me through another 2 or 3 of the ones that were on order, just to compare.
Yeah.
One was again Lapis Blue, a Krapovich exhaust, black Estorils, and sunroof.
Oh, nice.
So that was a really nice spec.
That is quite
but
nice.
Obviously not the performance pack. So again, for me, I think it's that wing, and
particularly when you've had it, it'd be sad to take it away.
This is it, and this is where, but and then I think, well, the Krapovich, but I'm not particularly into the Krapovich. The only thing I liked about it potentially was the black Estorils, but then I think the black Estorils look better on a lighter car. I think the Lapis Blue actually looks quite nice with the chrome effect, the silver effect, because it matches the wing mirrors.
Yeah.
So I think the black ones look really good on like white, or like the reflex silver I had. It looked awesome because you get the black contrast with all the gloss and everything around the car, whereas the Lapis Blue is quite a strong blue.
Yes, yeah.
You almost need something to separate that, otherwise the wheels just sort of sit in. You don't really notice them.
No, I would go with that.
So I sort of, there was that one, and then there was a white one, again with the black Estorils.
Looks good in white. The
just
first
with
one
a
I
pan
drove was
sunroof, and that was it. So nice car, but doesn't have the sort of the wow factor. For me, I think it needs to have, for me, the Lapis Blue, the colour for me out of the 3 is the one I'm most at home with, because I've had a Lapis Blue before and I loved it.
Completely, and it is. I spoke about this a lot last week.
It's the flagship colour for the R.
Yeah, that is like you see a Lapis Blue car, it's Golf R.
Oh,
only on a Golf
literally.
R, you know it. I still, and again, it's probably various reasons around it. It is a shame they only offer 3 colours.
Yeah.
Obviously, with this Clubsport, you had a whole host of colours to choose from, and it's a shame that this colour isn't on an R.
Yeah.
Because the R, funny to go back to the video that I did before, the R line was in this colour, so they'd spec'd it in the exact same one that you had.
Right.
And I was like, that looks
awesome.
really good.
Yeah.
It looks so good. And again, some of the things that you'll notice that look a little bit better in some ways, or certainly a little bit different to your Clubsport, is you get a lot more gloss black.
Right.
So you get gloss black sort of side skirts, if that makes sense.
Oh, right.
So your one is sort of like, it's black, but it's not
I've
gloss.
often wondered why they did that, and the only reason I can imagine is because of the Clubsport and it being more race kind of focused. Obviously the harder plastic is more protective, because I also remember, which is the one downside of having an all paint kind of, all the gloss black, is it chips easily.
Yep.
and it's very expensive to correct.
That's how they'll kind of get you.
And I reckon that's why they've done it, because it's almost acting as a protector for the paintwork.
And it does help in that sense. I think they tried,
because the Edition 45 is also black plastic.
So I need to see. Well, obviously I can't see one because there's literally none around at the moment.
I'm pretty sure.
When I've checked through the configurator, I was like, "Is that gloss black?" And I've like zoomed in, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Have they sort of added that aside?
I'm pretty sure it is. But it'd be interesting to see.
We'll definitely have to see. And to be fair, if you really really wanted it, it's something you could retrofit.
Of course you could.
It's just a pull-off part, really. It's very simple.
Yeah.
But I like, when I think about your situation, because obviously I wouldn't want you to make the wrong decision. Obviously everything's, personal choice for what you do. I think I always look at, like, what if the worst situation, like, you didn't like it, and I think if it was in that situation, you already know that you love this car.
Well, if it wasn't if I didn't like it, I could join the long list of people selling second-hand cars
for overlist.
Massively inflated prices.
It's an investment, basically.
I looked on the Auto Trader last night.
It's a joke.
I think there was one for 55 grand.
Yeah. So
the same spec the basically I'm getting for 55 grand.
It is absolutely ridiculous, and I mean,
that's 10 grand above the price.
I literally, there was one that's just been sitting there for a few months, to be fair. I think it's from I've done videos on this as well, and it's at 52, 53. But it's had some miles on it as well. And I'm like, it's missing that option as well.
Yep.
It's missing that option. I'm like, how are they justifying it? But obviously they're seeing these cars sell.
Well, the justification is, the dealer told me an example. A guy drove in from London a few weeks back. They had a demonstrator there, Lapis Blue.
Yep.
Every single option you can put on the car. So you're probably talking about the most expensive. So I don't know, a normal price, it probably would have been 50 grand, that car.
Yeah.
Fully spec.
Probably 50 grand.
And they put it on for quite a lot more than the guy would have configured it on the website. And he came in and he asked the dealer, he goes, why are you selling this for so much more than it comes up on the configurator? He goes, because, to be honest with you, mate, you can't get one.
Yeah. And people don't know.
And the guy turned around to him and apparently said, that's a really good point. I'll take it, please.
Oh, really?
Right?
Straight away?
Yeah. So,
okay.
So because you can't. If you are an enthusiast and you want a car...
Now, as well.
As I said, if I wanted this car that I'm getting now, if I ordered it now, I'm going to be seeing that May next year.
Yep.
He said April, May.
Yeah. And that's what I'm hearing as well from people. So that's
which is 100%. A long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, 8.5 might be.
You're heading towards the facelift or whatever they'll do, and that's it. It's just that you've got these guys know it's like the PlayStation 5, and it's the exact same thing with the PlayStation 5. They're overinflated because you can't get them. So the people that have them know this. And so realistically can sell it for as much as the person's willing to pay.
Definitely, it's supply and demand all day long. And I think, I've said this a lot actually when I went through, I did a bit of a series of people like selling like their 7Rs and just the premium they get for it. The best situation you can be in is actually to just be in the car.
Yeah.
So for you to be in this is much better than not. Like if you, to be fair, imagine if you'd sold this 2 months ago.
Oh my God.
It would be pointless because the car's gone up in money and you've lost the enjoyment of having it for another 2 months. So it's like, just keep it. And
I'm probably in the best situation ever because by the time if I do go for this, I will have had a year in this car.
That is crazy, and
enjoying this car, and had the reference point to know what it was like coming from the R's, and then to go back into an R for the rest of the winter.
It's brilliant.
Then ready to open the sunroof when the sun comes out again. Yeah, it kind of is the best situation possible.
They're literally, this will never happen again.
No.
I mean, this is literally like a complete one-off.
And that's why I'm thinking about it, because I'm not normally, I'm an impulsive person naturally, but not the fact that I would get rid of a car after a year. I would usually give it the 2 or 3 years or whatever and enjoy it. But I've just seen this sort of gap open up, and having spoken with my dealer, he verified sort of the things that I was thinking, and I was very surprised to get back this offer.
No, 100%.
Yes, I'm going to be paying more than I'm paying on this, but compared to what I would normally be paying, if I'd gone out there as a first-time buyer, then it's a very good deal.
It's exactly, and you are in a really really good. Whatever you do, I mean, even if you decide in a couple of weeks or whatever, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna enjoy this car.
Yes.
I'm gonna love it. Absolutely fine.
Sure.
I mean, you're still absolutely you're
Sure.
quids in, and you've got a great car. And having had experiences in the 8R, I think what you'll enjoy the most if you do go for it is different. It's not like, because you look at these cars, they look so similar. The arcade,
identical, yeah.
Yeah, same engine as well, pretty much the same power. There's give or take.
Yes.
But you do get a completely different driving experience, and I think that is something that, particularly for an enthusiast, is quite important. You know,
and the thing is, Sam, as you know, I've had R's for a long time. I know exactly how it's going to feel.
Oh, 100%. And
I just know. Because I know how this feels different to my 7.5, and I know that the 8 is better than the 7.5. But it'll be the same weight. It'll feel the same. It'll just have all those kind of improvements to it. So I know how it's going to feel.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
And if
it's just a bit more solid, really.
Exactly. And if you hadn't watched the first Q&A, so you had basically almost every in some ways, and you was at Mark 6, Mark 7, 7.5,
Mark 5 R32,
Yep.
Mark 6R, Mark 7R, Mark 7.5R. Then went to the Clubsport.
So if you're interested in these cars, you're interested in my channel, this is probably the perfect conversation, really, to be fair. If you want to get an understanding of what you want. And when you are talking about a fair amount of money, particularly with cars generally being inflated anyway, I think people should invest their time into listening into conversations like this, because it's like you're making such a big commitment.
Yeah.
Don't be like our dealers on the phone. Oh, I've got to do this. I've got to get this done by tomorrow.
But also, dealers, like with all respect to them, they have really no idea about the cars. They're not enthusiasts. They drive a very basic, probably whatever. You know, they're not car enthusiasts, a lot of them. And so, actually, hearing it from people that have had the cars, lived with them for years,
not after your money.
It's like anything. If I wanted to go and buy a really nice music sound system, I would want to speak to people that had that system and had used it and compared it to others. So you need experience to give a proper review.
No, 100%. So I mean, obviously, definitely.
I am sad that there is a part of me that is sad, because I do love this car, and as I said to you earlier on, I constantly get comments about it, and it's more than I thought I would with the car. And even like little things like people say, I know instantly, even if I'm way down the road, I know it's you.
Yeah, that is always a good sign with a car, isn't it?
And there's obviously something about the colour, the contrast, the way it looks that just sort of shouts out to people.
I'm trying to think. Obviously these cars are quite rare in some ways anyway.
Oh, I've not seen another Clubsport
I don't
yet.
think I've seen another.
I've not seen another Clubsport yet, in this area.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, I try and keep a lookout for them and stuff. Maybe at a dealer I might have seen one, maybe.
Yeah.
But even that I can't even think of. I mean, I got my car serviced a couple of weeks ago. I didn't see anything. Didn't see any 8Rs, no Clubsport. I was like,
there's nothing.
Oh, an ID3.
They haven't got demonstrators. They're selling the demonstrators to people who are just desperate for a car.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely...
So that there are none around.
It's really, really weird. It's really, really weird. Normally, if the world was a little bit more normal, we'd be sitting here going, there's about, thousands of Rs, thousands of Clubsports.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they're worth this, they're worth that. And it's like, now it's like you're in a position where you can really take advantage if you play your cards right.
Yep.
And... That is great. Well, one thing I have actually learned, particularly from a lot of stuff, keep the miles low.
Yes.
I think I hammered my miles. I was doing like 12,000 miles a year when I was commuting into work, and I felt more detached from the car. It just felt more. It wasn't as an exciting thing. Since lockdown, and I've been like only a few thousand miles here. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually a really good car. This is great, and you feel that more with that. And I would probably actually almost recommend that in some ways to some people if you can make it work.
If you think about it, when you go and sell a car, particularly these sort of cars, if you've done all the miles, not only does it say it on the clock and they know the car's been used and parts going to have to be replaced soon and all this kind of stuff, but it's also the wear and tear on the body.
Yeah.
So if you're up and down motorways all the time, dealers know that. They can see little chips in the car, and they can all just see money that they're going to have to spend on it.
Yeah, literally they will literally like pull your pants down.
Whereas if you turn up like I do with mine, and they're cleaned all the time, they're in just perfect condition. This is dirty for me.
For me, this is like a fantastic.
So we're in a dirty car for me at the moment. There are actually a couple of specs around the place.
There's a spec there.
Yeah. You know, and they see the mileage. You know, you've had this car for 3 years and you only done like 11,000 miles or 12,000 miles. Oh my God, right? Yes, please.
Yeah.
And then they're happy to give you a great price for it.
That is true. And you know, if I was,
because if you're going to look for a car,
I'd want this.
What's the first thing you look at? Mileage. That's the first thing you look at.
I literally couldn't agree more.
The year and the mileage.
That is, and. Don't spend your. I know these cars are great, and I know you can kind of get excited and be like, "Oh yeah, I just want to drive it all the time." I found, particularly when you're driving to work, you might not always enjoy what you're doing on a day-to-day. You know, you might be tired and fed up. It kind of, that sort of feeling sort of translates itself into the car.
Yeah.
So it's like, and you're wasting money in some way because your car's just depreciating for every 100, 200 miles that you're doing per week.
Yeah.
Whereas you could literally, you do your miles on this. If you say, "Oh, you know what? For a weekend, I want to go to Wales, I want to really enjoy it," you'll have that and you'll be like, that was brilliant, that was fantastic, this is why I had the car. And you're not going to be thinking, oh no, it's my car's now on 20,000 miles. I know it's not what and people might disagree as well. If you want to drive your car all you want, fine, do what you want, but this is just from what I've learned.
But also I think it depends on your long-term plan. If you want to keep, if you're going to keep that car for years and years and years, then obviously do what you want.
Oh yeah, keep it. Certainly have.
But definitely, I'd say for an enthusiast, keep it down, because if you're changing your car regularly, it's just going to help. You're going to save money.
Completely. So I think you've got quite a few things. You got a few things to think about.
Yeah.
It's really. I mean, is there anything that I can help you with from what I've done that you might?
I would say probably what would be good is if we went for a drive.
Go for it. Yeah.
And then we'll come back and I'll get your view, because you've just been in an R recently.
Last
week. your view compared to how this feels.
Go for it. So I think if we end the Q&A here, we'll have another video coming up soon. But yeah, I hope people have enjoyed it. I hope they found this useful. Stay tuned to the channel. This is a really unique situation, and ultimately I'm a car nut, to be honest, and a lot of the people I talk about love their cars. So it's a good channel to kind of listen to, and yeah, like it. Share, subscribe, and I'll keep the content coming. That's the best way. But no, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. Cheers guys.
So there you go. I'm flooring it. These are very, very wet roads, and there's nothing going on.
This feels planted.
Yeah.
Absolutely planted. So the R is only going to be even more planted. That's the crazy thing.